section 1.1. So in section 1.1 we had a linear equation and we are required to solve the linear equation. Solving linear equation means that we need to find the value of variable in the given equation. So you are required to practice 1 and 2. So let me pick number 2. Okay, I'm pretty sure you can solve number 1 by yourself. So in number 2 we have 3x minus 1 divided 5 plus 1 equals to 1/2. This is not a rational equation because we don't have variable in the denominator. So we have a constant number, and if we have the variable in the denominator, then that is your rational equation. So here the degree of this equation is still 1, so this is a linear equation. But we can use the same method as we used to solve the rational equation. So for that, let's find the common denominator. So for the first expression our denominator is 5, for the second expression our denominator is 1, and for this third expression our denominator is 2. So we have the denominator 5, we have 1, and we have 2. Okay, so we have these three different denominator, and the common denominator, you all know the common denominator for 5, 1, 2 is 10. So our common denominator is 10, and we multiply this equation on both sides by the common denominator. So you are multiplying, okay, so you are multiplying both sides of this equation by the common denominator. Now let me rewrite this. So we have 10 times 3x minus 1 divided 5 plus 1 over 1. So I can rewrite this as a 1, okay, still same thing, equals to 1/2 times 10, that is 5. Now on the left side we have a number times the binomial. Okay, so we have two expression here, okay, separated by positive. So we distribute this 10 for the first expression, and we distribute this 10 to the second expression, and this gives us 10 times 3x minus 1 divided 5 plus, you distribute 10 to 1, so that is 10 times 1 equals to 5. So you can simplify here. 5 times 1 is 5, 5 times 2 is 10. So we have 2 times, so here 3x minus 1, we have two expressions separated by negative, so make sure you have parenthesis. 3x minus 1 plus 10 times 1, 10 equals to 5. Okay, so now as we had earlier, so we have a number times two expressions separated by negative, so we need to distribute this 2 for 3x and for negative 1. So 2 times 3x, that is 6x, 2 times negative 1, that is negative 2, plus 10 equals to 5. Okay, now we look for the like terms. So negative 2, positive 10, these are the constant. We can simplify. So we are left with 6x, negative 2, positive 10, that is positive 8 equals to 5. Now we are solving this equation. Solving means we want our variable, this is the variable by itself. Okay, now this variable has 6 with it and positive 8, so we need to get rid of this. So in order to get rid of 8, we subtract 8 on both sides. We have 6x equals to, this is 0, okay, 5 minus 8, that is minus 3. Now we need to get rid of 6, we divide both sides by 6. Now this gives us 6x divided by 6x equals to negative 3 divided by negative 0.5, or you can have your answer in a fraction as negative 1/2. It's gonna be same thing. Okay, so you can have your answer in a decimal or a fraction. So this is for number 2, and you will have one linear equation, and you will be asked to solve the linear equation. So make sure you practice a similar type of example, and I'm pretty sure you will be able to solve number one. And if you need help, yeah, just let me know. Now the next here we have number 5. Okay, in number 5, so in number 5 we have 2 times x minus 1 equals to y minus 7, and we are asked to solve this equation for y in terms of x. So we are solving for y. Okay, so solving for y, in order to solve this equation for y, we want our y by itself in one side. You can have y on the right side or left side, it really doesn't matter. Now here with y we can see -7, so let's get rid of -7 from right side. For that we add 7 on both sides. Okay, so we have 2 times x minus 1 positive 7 equals to y. Now this is the solution, but if there is any way you could simplify your answer, you should. Okay, right on the left side we can distribute 2 and we can have a simple simplified form of answer. So this is 2 times x, 2x, 2 times -1, -2, positive 7 equals to y. We have a like terms, a -2 and positive 7, so we have 2x positive 5 equals to y, and this is the solution. Okay, so this is the solution for y in terms of x. This is the final answer. So make sure to have your final answer in a simplified form. Okay, now the next we have number 6. In number 6, so this is the application of linear equation, like a real life application. So here a $2,800 loan is paid back in 3 years with a simple interest. If the amount paid back was $3,388, what was the simple interest rate? So we are asked to find the simple interest rate. Okay, so we don't know what is R. We use R for simple interest rate, so this is unknown. So this is what we need to find. Now what is our $2,800? So now $2,800 is P. Okay, so P is the principal, or this is sum of money, okay, or it is a loan, or it is investment. Okay, and so $2,800 is the loan, so we represent 2,800 by P. So $2,800, that is loan, which is the principal. Okay, you might have some amount as investment or sum or a principal, so you do not expect to get principal. Okay, so you have to understand that the sum of money that you take, or the sum of money that you borrow or you give loan, that is your principal. Okay, and we have 3 years, that is T. So our time is 3 years. Your time has to be always in years. Okay, so we have 3 years, so it's already in years. Now if the amount paid back was 3,388, so the amount paid back, so this is not the interest. Okay, this is the amount paid back along with the principal. So amount is $3,388. So this is given to us. Now we know simple interest as I is equals to principal time rate. So when you multiply your principal time rate, you get the simple interest. Your rate has to be in decimal. Okay, so you might get your rate in percentage, you divide by 100 and you will get in decimal. Now but this is what we are asked to find in this question. Okay, now how do we find the simple interest? So our simple interest is amount minus principal. So if you find the difference between amount and principal, that is your interest. So our amount is 3,388 minus principal is 2,800. Okay, what do we know about simple interest? That is principal time r is the simple interest. Now let's substitute principal and time. Principal is 2800, time is 3, our rate, this is what we need to find, so let's keep it as a r. And here let's simplify, so this is 3388 minus 2800, so we have 588. So this is the interest. Okay, now let's solve this equation. This is a linear equation. Now let's solve this equation for r. So let's simplify on the left side at first. So we have 2800 times 3, which is 8400, times r equals to 588. Now we need to get rid of 8400 from left side, so we divide both sides by 8400. So 8400 divided by 8400 is 1 time r is r, and 588 divided by 8400, that is 0.07. so this is the rate in decimal. Now you need to have a rate in percentage. Okay, so for that you multiply by 100% and you get 7%. So this is the rate, simple interest rate. Again, this is the final answer. Okay, this is all from section 1.1. so you make sure you know how to solve a linear equation, how to solve for any variable, and try to solve the real life application of linear equation. Now in section 1.2. So section 1.2 is about quadratic equation, and you are asked to practice 7, 8, 9. So let me do number 9. And in number 9 we have x squared minus 9x plus 20 equals to 0. So this is the quadratic equation and we are asked to use factoring method. Okay, so make sure to use factoring method. Do not use quadratic formula here. You have to use factoring method. Now, the very first step of solving quadratic equation by factoring method is making one side of the equation equals to 0. So making one side of the equation equals to 0. That's the first step. Okay, now in our equation, so let me rewrite, x squared minus 9x plus 20 equals to 0. Now in this equation we already have 0 on the right side, so we can skip this step. Okay, next step is we factorize the other sides. So we factorize our left side. Now let's see what it looks like. We have x squared minus 9x plus 20 equals to 0. Okay, so this is the quadratic trinomial. Okay, quadratic trinomial, and this square term has a positive 1 here. And if you have a quadratic trinomial with the coefficient of a square term equals to 1, then we use FOIL method. So using FOIL method we will have two factor. So what would be the term? First term whose product is x squared, it's gonna be x, right? When you multiply x times x, you get x squared. Now our target is finding two numbers, let me call p, q, whose product is the constant, that is 20, and their sum p plus q has to be the coefficient of x, which is -9. Okay, now we look for the two number whose product is 20 and the sum of those two number has to be -9. So those two number would be -4 and -5. -4 times -5, that is +20, and -4 plus -5, that is -9. So -4, so our p is -4, q is -5 equals to 0. So we use FOIL method to factorize this quadratic trinomial with a coefficient of a square term 1. Now once you factorize completely, okay, so this is the complete factorization. So we have two factor, we set each of this factor equals to 0. So we set x minus 4 equals to 0, x minus 4 equals to 0, and x minus 5 equals to 0. So once you factorize completely, you're gonna write each factor equals to 0. Now we solve this linear equation, and we know how to solve this linear equation. So our x is 4 or x is 5, and these two are the solution for this quadratic equation. Okay, so here we use factorization method. So we factorize our quadratic equation. Okay, so make sure to use factorization if there is an instruction for you to use factoring method. Okay, I think similarly you can practice the remaining, and if you still need help, yeah, please let me know. So I'm gonna go to the next, so 13, 15, 16. Okay, let me go to, so you have 13, 15, 16. So let me choose number 16, and this is also solving quadratic equation, but you have to use a different method, completing the square method. So our equation is negative 2x square plus 8x equals to 1. So we are asked to solve this quadratic equation using completing the square. So we're gonna use completing the square method. You are not allowed to use quadratic formula. Okay, so solving means we need to know what is the value of this variable. Okay, so what variable makes this equation true, we need to find that number. Okay, now since this is a quadratic equation, every quadratic equation has at least two solutions. Now the very first step of solving the quadratic equation using a completing square method is we separate the terms with variables in one side and the constant term on the other side. So this is the first step. Once you have a quadratic equation, you're gonna collect every terms with variable in one side and the constant on the other side. Now let me rewrite our equation. So we are given, so we have a negative 2x squared plus 8x equals to 1. So we have this equation. Now if we make an observation to our equation, we find the terms with variable. So we have this term with variable and we have this term with variable. So these two terms are already on the left side. So every terms with variable are on the left side, and we have this one constant which is on the on the right side. So we can skip this step. But for number 13, number 15, you need to take, okay, you need to get rid of those constant from left side. So make sure you are collecting every terms with variable in one side and the constant on the other side. That's the first step. Second step, we make the coefficient of square term equals to positive 1. So this is the square term, okay, and its coefficient is negative 2. So we need to get rid of this negative 2. It means we need to make it positive 1. And to make this coefficient positive 1, we divide each term of this equation by its coefficient, which is negative 2. So we are dividing each term by negative 2. Now after dividing, okay, let me just write down that step here. Divide each term by coefficient of square term. Okay, if it's other than positive 1, then you are required to divide each term of this quadratic equation by the coefficient of square term. Okay, so here we have a coefficient of square term -2, so we have this -2, so we choose -2 to divide each term of this equation. Now we get -2x squared divided by -2 positive x squared positive 8x divided by -2 -4x equals to 1 divided by -2, that is -1 half. Okay, now the next step is that we take the coefficient of x term. Okay, we take the coefficient of x term, or you are taking the coefficient of a term with a degree 1. So you are taking this coefficient. You can include a negative, or it's okay if you don't include the sign. Okay, so you take the coefficient, then divide by 2. So you divide the coefficient by 2, divide by 2. So you are dividing the coefficient by 2. You are dividing by 2. Okay, then you square it. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. So you square it, and then so once you square it and then you add this expression, then add on both sides of the equation. Now this is what you need to add on a both side of our equation. So you are adding 2 square on a both side, and this is how we know what to add on a both side of the equation. You take the coefficient of x, you divide by 2, you square it, and then add on a both side. So let me rewrite that. So we have x square minus 4x positive 2 square equals to negative half plus 2 square. Now on the left side we have trinomial, and we can rewrite this trinomial as a perfect square of a binomial. And in order to rewrite this trinomial as a square of binomial, you take x from here, you take 2 from here. Okay, you are ignoring square, you take the sign of middle term, and you have the parenthesis for this and a whole square, and you square it. So this is, so these two, so this is the trinomial, and this trinomial is same as this square of binomial, so there is nothing new here. Equals to, on the right side, and these all are the number, we can simplify. 1/2, 2 square is 4. In order to simplify, we need to, okay, so it looks good. Okay, now you need to add these two number, we need to have a common denominator. The common denominator would be 2, so let's multiply the 4 in the numerator and denominator by 2. So we get a negative 1/2 plus 4 times 2, 8 divided by 2. We have the common denominator, we can simplify numerator. So we have negative 1 plus 8 divided by 2, and this is 7 over 2. So we have here x minus 2 square equals to 7 over 2. Now we are solving. Okay, this is, we are still solving this equation. So solving means we need to have our x by itself in one side, but this x has a square, it has a -2, so we need to get rid of this. So for square, so we apply square root on both sides to get rid of square, and you apply square root on the right side, and whenever you apply square root you will get positive negative, okay, on the other side. So this is square, this square root gone. We have x minus 2 plus minus square root of 7 over 2. Now we need to get rid of -2, we add 2 on both sides. So our x is equals to plus or minus square root of 7 over 2 plus 2. Okay, now here we take positive. So you take positive square root of 7. Okay, at first. So we have square root of 7 over 2 plus 2. So this is one solution. Now next you take the negative and the remaining. So we have negative square root 7 over 2 plus 2, and these two are the solution for this quadratic equation using and we solve this quadratic equation using completing the square method. Okay, so next we have 20, 33, 20. So in number 17 and 20, you are asked to solve the quadratic equation using quadratic formula. Okay, so your quadratic formula is x equals to negative b plus minus square root of b square minus 4ac divided by 2. Now let me solve number 20. So in number 20 we have 4 over 3 x square plus x equals to 2. And whenever you are solving the equation with a quadratic formula, you need to write your quadratic equation in a standard form. And your standard form of the quadratic equation looks like this: ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. So you have 0 in one side. Okay, so your standard form of the quadratic equation has 0 in one side. Now, do we have our equation in a standard form? So this is the equation. Okay, we are asked to solve this equation using a quadratic formula, and in order to use quadratic formula, you always need to have your quadratic equation in a standard form. Okay, having in a standard form means you're gonna need to have 0 in one side. So let me write the equation one more time: 4 over 3 x squared plus x equals to 2. So we have 2 on the right side, so let's get rid of 2 from right side. For that we subtract 2 on both sides. We have 4 over 3 x squared plus x minus 2 equals to 0. So we have 0 in one side. That's the very first step. Now we compare this equation with our standard form of the quadratic equation. So you compare and you find the value of a, value of b, and value of c. Now if you compare here, for a we have 4 over 3. Okay, so this is our a. For b is the coefficient of x, b is a number in front of x. So in front of this x, we don't see any number, but it's always 1. Okay, we can always find 1. So 1 is the b, so our a is 4 over 3, b is 1, and c is a constant, and constant is negative 2. So c is negative 2. Now once you have abc, you can substitute abc in this quadratic formula. Our variable in the equation is x, so we have x equals to negative b plus minus b square minus 4ac divided by 2 times a. Now let's substitute. So we have negative b plus, we are substituting the value of abc. So our b is 1, so we have negative 1 plus or minus square root 1 square minus 4 times a is 4 over 3 times c is negative 2, divided by 2 times a is 4 over 3. So this is negative 1 plus minus 1 square is 1. Now here negative 4 times positive 4, negative 16. Negative 16 times negative 2, that is positive 32, divided by 3. Now we have a fraction under the radical sign, so we need to have a common denominator. 1 has a denominator 1 and 32 has a denominator 3. The common denominator would be 3. So in order to have a 3 as a common denominator, we multiply the numerator and denominator of this expression by 3. Okay, and in the numerator, in the denominator, we have 2 times 4, that is 8 over 3. This is minus 1 plus or minus Now we simplify under radical sign. We have 1 times 3, 3 divided 3 plus 32 divided by 3 equals to 8 over 3. So this is, now here we have -1 plus minus radical sign. We have a common denominator, so we can add our numerators. 32 plus 3, 35 divided by 3, and we have 8 over 3. Now in the denominator we have this fraction, so let's get rid of this denominator 3. Okay, and to get rid of denominator 3, we multiply by the denominator 3 on the both side, denominator and in the numerator. Okay, now we distribute this 3 for this number as well as this number. So 3 times -1, -3 plus minus 3 times square root of 35 over 3 is 3 times square root of 35 over 3 divided by 8 over 3 times 3. 3 cancel, we are left with 3. Now we take positive. So if you take positive sign, we get -3 positive 3 times 30 square root of 35 over 3 over 8. This is one solution. Okay, now you take negative and we end up getting -3 square root 35 over 3 divided by positive 8, and these two are the solution for this equation. Now you can simplify here, but this is, you can just leave here, you don't need to have your answer in the decimal, so this can be your final answer. Okay, now yeah, this is all. So from section 1.2 you all need to know how to solve the equation by factoring method, by completing the square method, and by using quadratic formula. Now in section 1.3, so in section 1.3 yeah, we have a complex number and you are asked to do a review. You are asked to practice 33 and number 35. Let me double check. So we have 33, 35. So out of 33 and 35, let me pick number 33. So in number 33 we have a complex number, let's call it x, and this complex number is 3 plus 2i, and we have another complex number called y, and this y is -4 plus 3i. So we have these two complex number and we are asked to find x plus y, x minus y, x times y, and x over y. So let me start with x plus y. So x plus y, your x is a complex number, y is a complex number. Okay, so this is the x, this is y, and you are asked to find sum of x and y. It means you are adding these two complex numbers. So we substitute x. Our x is 3 plus 2i. Make sure to have parentheses for more than any terms. We have plus, our y is -4 plus 3i. Now let's get rid of parentheses. We have positive sign in front of both parentheses, so there is no change in sign of these terms. So we copy 3 plus 2i, positive times -4, positive times 3i, that is positive 3i. Okay, so there is nothing changed. So when you are adding, sign of each expression remains same. Now we look for the like terms. Positive 2i, positive 3i are the like terms. Positive 3, -4 are the like terms. 3, -4, -1, positive 2i, positive 3i, that is positive 5i. So this is the sum of two complex number. Next we are asked to find the difference of these two complex number. So we are asked to find x minus y. You substitute your x, which is 3 plus 2i. You substitute your y is -4 plus 3i. You are asked to find the difference. Now we have the parentheses, so we have positive here, and if you have a positive in front of parentheses, every term inside the parentheses remains same. We have 3 plus 2i Now here we have negative in front of this parenthesis, so you need to distribute this negative for each expression inside the parenthesis. So negative times negative 4, positive 4, negative times positive 3, negative 3i. So whenever you have negative in front of parenthesis, you're gonna flip the sign of the expression, sign of the terms inside the parenthesis. So we had negative 4, so we make it positive 4. We had positive 3i, so we make it negative 3i because we had negative in front of this parenthesis. Now we look for the like terms. 3 and positive 4 are the like terms, 2i and negative 3i are the like terms. So 3 plus 4, 7, 2i minus 3i, that is minus I. So this is the difference of two complex number. Number third, we are asked to find their product. We are asked to find x times y. So our x is 3 plus 2i. Make sure to have parentheses. Y is negative 4 plus 3i. So these two are the complex number. We need to find their product. So we have binomial, one term, two term, one term, two term. So we have a binomial times binomial, and we can use FOIL method here. So you multiply first term, 3 times negative 4, negative 12. You multiply outside terms, 3 times positive 3i, that is positive 9i. You multiply inside term, 2i times negative 4, negative 8i, and you multiply last term, positive 2i times positive 3i, that is positive 6i square. We look for the like terms, so these two are the like terms. So we have negative 12, 9i minus 8i. 9i is positive, so that is I. What do we know about I square? That is 1. So this is 1. So do not forget, if you have I square, you have to replace by negative 1. Okay, so we have, so this is negative 1. 6 times negative 1. So this is negative 12 plus I. 6 times negative 1, negative 6. We still have these two like terms, negative 6, negative 12, negative 18 plus I. And this is how we can find the product of complex number. In part 4, we are asked to find x over y. So we substitute x, 3 plus 2i, and we have negative 4 plus 3i. So this is a complex number divided by complex number. And whenever you have complex number divided by complex number, dividing means you are changing the complex number in the denominator into a real number. Okay, you can't have a complex number in the denominator. You always need to get rid of complex number from the denominator. But here we have complex number, and in order to get rid of complex number from denominator, what do we need to do? Like, if you have a complex number and you want to change that complex number into a real number, what do we need to do? So here, in order to convert, or in order to get real number from a complex number, we need to multiply that complex number by its conjugate. Okay, conjugate means, so we have negative 4 plus 3i. So this is a complex number, and its conjugate is, so you just flip the sign of imaginary part. Here I has a positive sign, so you flip it. Negative 4, instead of plus, you're going to write negative 3i, and this is the conjugate of this complex number. So writing the excuse me, conjugate means you are flipping the sign of imaginary part. If you have a positive, write it negative, you get the conjugate. If you have negative, write down positive, you get the conjugate number. Excuse me. Now we use this conjugate to multiply our complex number, and make sure you are multiplying in the numerator as well as denominator. So we have negative 4, negative 3i divided negative 4, negative 3i. So you are multiplying the denominator by its conjugate. So this is 3 plus 2i times negative 4 negative 3i divided by negative 4 plus 3i times negative 4 negative 3i. So in the numerator we have complex number times complex number. In the denominator we have a complex number times complex number. Okay, so I want you to multiply these two complex number by yourself, simplify it, and similarly you multiply these two complex number, simplify it, and once you have a real number in the denominator, that's your final answer. Okay, or okay, let me go into. So we use the FOIL. So 3 times negative 4 negative 12, 3 times negative 3i, that is negative 9i, positive 2i times negative 4 negative 8i, positive 2i times negative 3i, that is negative 6i square, divided by negative 4 times negative 4 positive 16, negative 4 times negative 3i positive 12i, positive 3i times negative 4 negative 12i, positive 3i times negative 3i negative 9i square. So what do we know about I square? I square is negative 1, so you replace this I square by negative 1. We look for the like terms. So we have negative 12, negative 9i, negative 8i are the like terms. So negative 9i, negative 8i, that is negative 17i minus 6 times negative 1. Okay, so our I square is negative 1. So this is 0. We have 16 minus 9 and our I square is negative 1. So let's simplify negative 12, negative 17i, negative 6 times negative 1, that is positive 6, divided 16, negative 9 times negative 1, positive 9. So this is negative 12 and positive 6. These are the like terms. So this is negative 6, negative 17i divided by 16 plus 9, 25. Now you can just break into two parts, negative 6 divided by 25 and negative 17 over 25i, and this is the final answer, and this is how you divide a complex number. See, we don't have any more complex number in the denominator, we have a real number, and that's what we want. So in the beginning we have this denominator complex number. Now we only have a real number in our denominator. It's okay to have complex number in the numerator, okay, but you can't have complex number in the denominator. So this is about number 33. Similarly you can do number 35. Now the next we have number 38. No, so this is number, let me double check, 33. So 35, 42, 44. Let's see what are these. 42, 44. Okay, in 42, 44. Okay, let me do the remaining part in the next video.